For our first kickoff speaker, we're talking about the pace of technology change at an ever-increasing pace. And if you came to our conference in San Diego, you had the privilege of hearing Giovanni GIUSTI, a former colleague of mine in Lexmark, present a wonderful presentation on technology change. This presentation has been updated and is even more exciting than it was last time. So Giovanni's going to give us his view and many of the futurists' view of what technology has in store for us, not only as an industry, but as a species, which is, it's exciting, but some of it's also a little scary. But it's something I think as we start our presentation is the subject that's very, very much worth focusing on. So Giovanni, welcome. We thank you very much for traveling all the way from Paris to speak to us this morning. So the podium is yours.
So welcome to Vegas. As the chairman said, change is constant in our life and is accelerating very much so. So in my presentation today, my objective is to show you how this technology change could impact our life, not only in our working environment, but even from a social point of view, and maybe for the mankind species. I will not scare you, I promise you, but I'm going to raise some, as usual. I will put the topics as they are, and I'll be very specific. So, as a background, we all know that the technology, for several centuries, the technology evolution has been much slower than what the human beings were expecting. And I've put some numbers here, and it has impacted all kinds of industries. So when you look at numbers to see how many years it took for specific industries to have an adoption rate of 50%, which means when 50% of the population has adopted any kind of technology. We see that the cars, it took 85 years, and the telephone 70 years, and so on and so on. So, and we see an acceleration. Every new technology that is put on the market, the adoption rate is faster and faster. All of these technologies so far have created a lot of jobs, have created wealth, and we have enjoyed economic growth thanks to this. I do believe that current technology and the future technologies might reverse this equation, because the technology change will be much faster probably than what the human being might absorb or might be using. So the objective here is to see how it will impact us in our industry, including on the printing industry. I'll be very specific with some examples, and we will take it from there. Now, I only have one slide on a lot of technology, so a lot is changing, and we see that there will be conversion of technologies. The worlds will merge. We know that we live in our physical world, and then we have created the virtual reality, and we have created as well the augmented reality, so we are able today in our lives to put some digital items, some digital matters in what we physically do. And this is going to increase over time. And it is the same as well with the biological technology. I take an example, which is a 10-year-old child today, from a biological and scientific point of view, will be able to live 120 years. And probably will be working for 100 years and change several times jobs. And we can see already that this is very different from what the regulators today are doing. I live in Europe, where we go in pension when we are 65 years old, when from a biological point of view we can live much longer. Not me, but our kids. Okay. The technology is going to change everything. The chips will no longer be silicium based, but we're going to use the chemical and biological technology to do this. The storage, which is a huge challenge that we'll be facing, and we'll talk about it in a few slides from now. There isn't enough technology today to store the data we need. So in the labs, they are working on new technologies based on the DNA in order to address this issue. and the same will be happening as well for the energy. We don't have enough electricity, so we'll have to go on other type of energy that we use today. The same will happen on the 3D printing as well. It's going to change the way we produce, and we'll take a few examples on that. However, none of this technology will change our world the way I think it will. These technologies will improve our life, but they will not be a threat, or they will not be changing the way we live. What are the two technologies I think that will impact us most? I want to talk today about the artificial intelligence and the blockchain. And these two technologies will change a lot in our life for three main reasons. First, they can handle big data in big time. They will improve drastically the productivity of what we do every day. And also it will have an impact on the way we live. And we'll take examples on this. First of all, what do I mean by big data? Some of you guys have seen this slide before, but it's critically important that we understand it. So far, the data has been doubling every 2 years. We are accelerating this path by doubling the data every 3 months. Now, you might say that this is not a major change, when in reality it is. In 2013, we had 3.5 zettabyte of digital data. By 2020, just by doubling the data from 2 years to 3 months, the digital data will be 44 zettabyte, and a few years later, we will be close to 1 million zettabyte. This is huge. What we see today on internet or on any kind of application is nothing compared to what we'll be seeing in 10 years from now. Nothing. And I'm comparing this with the Office pages space. So all the pages that are printed with the toners, let it be OEM, Reman, new build. I'm not entering into these debates. But the printed pages in the Office space is a very small fraction of the digital data. You can see it's, in 2013, it's 4 digits, 1%, and so on and so on. So the world is definitely moving to digital, and that's not a surprise for you. But the other data that is very surprising is that very soon we will have probably in the world 10 trillion sensors. So for each human being, we might be dealing with 140 sensors. So we'll have technology in our body. I don't know, maybe we'll be having a QR code on our skin. We will not need passports or glasses or whatever. But all of this is happening. The technology is there to make it work, and it will help the productivity everywhere. Though there is not enough storage to handle all of this. In 2018, the data storage has increased in the world the need for data storage has increased by 44%. So by 2020, if you continue using existing technology, it will not happen. This is why we need to move to DNA type storage and other technology as well. What is the biggest challenge we have? The biggest challenge is to be able to analyze the data, because it will be enormous. We should try to understand it and make sense of it and turn it into business. And that will work for us as consumer or even in our business environment. This is the most critical challenge that we'll have to face in the coming years. So what is the artificial intelligence? I want first to start saying what it's not. It is not the traditional software codes that we have been enjoying for the last 50 years. So when you see that companies like IBM, Microsoft, Apple, and many others have written millions and millions of codes in order to process the tools that we are using, and that could be Excel, PowerPoint, and so on, iTunes. Artificial intelligence is the opposite of this. Artificial intelligence is just a collection of advanced technologies that try to behave like a human brain. They try to comprehend the situation, they learn from it, and then they act and they take a decision. The base technology has been created 60 years ago, But because we didn't have big data, it wasn't very useful. Now that we have big data, these software and machines can absorb this data, analyze it, assess it, and then give us what we need. Okay. And what is amazing is that it's a software that writes itself. It learns, and then it can improve. Okay. It solves today. It's a problem solver, so it can replace easily human beings. In terms of productivity, there is no way that we can compete against these types of software and machines. No way. And when we see that, I've just mentioned the top 6 companies, not only the GAFA companies, but I've added to this even Microsoft and IBM. These companies that represent today a market value of $3,000 billion are spending a fortune on artificial intelligence. These companies, and probably other Chinese companies as well, will dominate the world in artificial intelligence. Why? Because these same companies today, they already own a lot of data, so they can do this. And there are much more technologies that will appear on the market, which will help some of the applications. You see down the speech recognition, the data center, the security cameras, and so on and so on. Everything we'll be doing in our daily life will be driven by artificial intelligence. And the medical sector as well is involved. Very soon, artificial intelligence associated with robotics could replace surgeons for some of the activity they have to perform. It will be much safer than what a human being can do, even if it's a qualified doctor. And that works as well for any industrialized tasks. And I want to take as well an example that will work in Vegas as well. There is today technology that can understand the chemical content of our breath, and then understand what's our feeling out of it. And that's thanks to the artificial intelligence. So when we have tournaments today with people making a fortune on poker with the dark glasses and so on, so that we could not see their face, artificial intelligence will understand what these guys think, and then we can forget about the poker face. They will lose money. And the casino will forbid them to be playing as they want to try to achieve not to lose money. And this is not in 10 years from now. This is probably already on the market, and it can be done. It's being done in the lab as we speak. So the casinos will like artificial intelligence. Some of the examples that will illustrate what I'm saying. In 1997, IBM has been able to beat Kasparov, who was the world champion in chess. It wasn't due to artificial intelligence. It was due to the power of the chip, and it has been able to beat the world champion on that. We had to wait 15 years so that a machine can beat human beings on another game, and you're probably aware of this. It's a US game, and IBM had to feed the software with 1 million books so that it could understand how it works and beat the human beings on this. It took 5 more years for Amazon to beat the world champion of the Go, which is an Asian game, much more complex than chess. Again, by digesting all the information, they have digested 1 million games. The machine has learned out of it, and then it has been able to trick the world champion and to beat him. We are talking about a huge market that is coming. As we speak, it's a bit less of $10 billion turnover today. Just in China, in 10 years from now, this market will be about $150 billion. So probably at worldwide level, it will be very close to $1,000 billion. This is huge. AI will be everywhere, and it is everywhere. Already we as consumers, we have been facing AI systems, software and machines in 77% of the cases. That's the adoption rate we have today. Okay, and that will increase much more. So what are the impacts and the concerns? The concern is the following. And I want to take the example of this that happened a few years ago. They have given to an AI system, they showed the system a picture of a dog. that was surrounded by snow. And then the AI said, no, this is a wolf. Why? Then they analyzed, why did the machine make a mistake? Because the examples that was given to the machine has always been the fact that a wolf operates in a snow environment. It could not recognize the dog. So the example given to the machine was wrong. And why do I take this example? Is because if you give wrong data to the AI, it will always give you the same answer, and it will be always wrong. And when you think about it, that AI is going to determine if we can have a house loan, if you can have a job, and other stuff in our daily life, it could be a kind of threat that, come on, this could be wrong. So we have to be careful that we are dealing with trusted data, and that is one of the main issues of artificial intelligence. Okay. Fake news. It's very easy with artificial intelligence to create fake news. Some people have tried to make believe that Wonder Woman was a porn star. We all know that it's not the case, but you can create some of these fake news and make people believe whatever you want. Today with the technology, you just need 48 hours to create any kind of fake news. You can make people believe that Russia has launched a bomb, or the US, or whomever. I'm not taking position for any side here, but it could be very risky. Some people will say, yeah, but in the past it was the same, we had rumors. Yeah, but rumors were not creating any threat to the world. With the AI, because people can see it, can feel it, and it is spread everywhere, that could be very risky. We also have the new technology drones today that are really military. Now, on one hand, it's very good because human beings will not die when they fly planes, but who will be controlling these machines? And so on and so on. We can take hundreds of examples there. So there are a lot of good people thinking about this. They are creating principles on AI, how to use it and not to use it. And I believe that the regulators in the coming years will fix this issue. But we do have to address this big time. Now, as a summary on the artificial intelligence, they will be smarter, faster, cheaper, and more accurate than any human being. They could replace us in most of the administrative jobs we are doing. And today we're happy because it's human-centric. It's giving us an easier life, healthier, we can take more vacations, and so on and so on. But one day these machines could replace us. And some scientists believe that in 50 years from now, things could change very, very much so. Because the computer power, every computer could have a power that is equal to 10 billion human brains. There is no way we can compete against this. Absolutely no way. And if you go more into the science fiction here, the AI could be able to collaborate or to go and in the cosmos and colonize what's happening outside the planet Earth and stuff like this. This is not any kind of threat, but we'll be able to communicate with probably other kind of worlds that today it is unknown to us. And the real question is, what's the impact on the human species? Okay. So one topic was the artificial intelligence, and now about the blockchain. The blockchain has been created in 1990, but it has been the public has known about it in 2008 when we had the financial crisis. Some people have said the banks are not anymore any trusted third party, a trusted intermediary, so we need the technology to replace this. And we are in a situation where today the intermediary is no longer a third party, but it is only the technology. And it works very well. It works perfectly well. It is a secured, it's a ledger, so it's like an accounting book, except that it is distributed, secured, and accessible to everybody. It's immutable, we cannot change the data, nobody can crack it, so it does work. What will this technology help us to do? Very simple. Today on the internet, we are exchanging data freely. Nobody is blocking us. Tomorrow, with the blockchain, we'll be able to exchange assets. And I will show you how we can do this. Okay. It could technically replace any intermediary any third-party intermediaries, banks, notaries, lawyers, and so on and so on. It is a huge threat to the financial institutions. They are trying to do everything. Central banks, financial institutions, regulators, normally in the world, are trying to stop this because it's a huge threat to central control of what is happening. At the same time, many companies, the GAFA and others, are investing huge money on this. You cannot have blockchain without having a method to pay for what you are doing through the blockchain. And if you are using euros, dollars, or whatever currency, then you need to go through a bank to do it. So part of the technology has been to create a cryptocurrency, which is just a digital currency to be able to pay for any transaction you do. As we speak, you have thousands of currency, 2,000. You can read the numbers of the value they have today. The top two are Bitcoin, which is the most famous one. Number two is Ethereum. I've put here that the Ethereum value was $46 billion. That was true 1 month ago. Today it is less than $24 billion. There's a huge speculation on the value of these cryptocurrencies. However, a person, any of us that had invested $1,000 in 2015 would have had $30K in 2016, $300K in 2017. This $1,000. So it shows you the big increase it has had, and now it has lost a lot of value. It's back to 150, probably 100K today because the cryptocurrency are moving. Today, we can pay with the cryptocurrencies, but it's not very easy to do it because of the currency fluctuations, and we'll take a few examples of this. Based on the blockchain and the cryptocurrency, now we have a new way to raise money. It's the ICO, the initial coin offering. So you give tokens, you give a cryptocurrency to people, and they'll give you the money so that startups can raise money and make business. It is not yet very popular. You have had in 2017 a little bit less than 900 cases. They've raised $6 billion, same in the first 6 months of 2018. I'm comparing this with the IPOs, which is the traditional way of raising money, which is a much bigger amount. But this is coming and will continue to come. And the regulators today in the world are a bit lost. They don't know how to control ICOs. And there is, as I told you, high resistance from the banking industry. But when you think about it, the same financial institutions today that have created a big problem in 2008, we haven't passed this crisis. As we speak, we are speculating on 10 times the worldwide GDP. 10 times the worldwide GDP. We're at a high risk. It is still 20% higher than the case we had in 2008 when the financial crisis has been raised. It's a big issue, and people, they understand this, and they will continue using blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and other technology in order to avoid these risks. What are the concerns? Payment in cryptocurrency is an issue today, and Bitcoin is only a peer-to-peer transaction, so you can only use it to pay. But with the currency fluctuation, it's not going to work. I still don't understand why Bitcoin has such a big value, because you can do nothing out of it. I think one of the good one is the Ethereum, because they use what we call smart contracts. It's very simple. It's a transaction between A and B. So if A does what it has to do, and if B does what it has to do, then something happens. And this is decided by the software, and when these actions are being realized, then the transaction is being made automatically with no intervention from any intermediary. And this technology works very well. It has been tested. Nobody has been able to crack it in the last 36 months. You have more than 500 companies today in the world that are trying to use smart contract with Ethereum to have application on a daily basis so that we users can be able to benefit from it. It will still take 18 months so that we can see it. Some people say 5 years, but it is happening. and it will not revolutionize everything. We will be solving one by one business situations, and we will adopt this technology. There is no doubt in my mind. There are a lot of limitations. We haven't talked about the mining. The mining is the blockchain technology. The way it works is that the data is encrypted on a chain, and when you add a new data, the new data is added on the chain itself, and all of that is a block as such. If you want to crack a single data, you have to crack the entire chain of data, which is almost impossible. And why do we need the miners? Because the miners compete between themselves in the world with a lot of computers and chips, so that they can resolve a mathematical equation, and the miner that wins is being rewarded the capacity to store the data, this encrypted data, for 10 minutes, not more than this. And he's being rewarded with cryptocurrencies. And every 10 minutes, the data is moving from one place to another place. So if somebody wants to try to crack all of this data, he has only 10 minutes, and he has to know where the data is, crack it, before it changes physically space. Okay. But that process is using a lot of energy. It's a slow process. You have a lot of companies today that are collaborating with Ethereum, and other companies, to try to accelerate this technology and to do something much better. But it's not yet scalable. It's an early technology. There are no tools for developers to write applications on them and so on. So that's why it will take another 18 months to have something real at the full scale. I think it will help counterfeiting as well. Why? Because today you see that the counterfeiting market is huge. You guys are more expert than me on this topic, but probably the blockchain, because of the secure data that you can have spread on a network, then you will be able to track all the original material, the production where it has been produced, the shipment to the point of sale. And there is no way that the counterfeiting can happen during all of this process. But again, the applications have to be written on this. So that, I think, could be very good for the counterfeiting business. Now, if we combine artificial intelligence and blockchain, it's easy to understand that it will help our daily life big time, but for how long? It's going to impact our environment. Will it create jobs, or will it create unemployment and poverty? One of the most eminent scientists in the world in 2015, I let you read it, Stephen Hawking, made it very clear that if the companies continue to operate as today, and the companies keep all the profit for themselves, we will create big unemployment. And that will create an issue, because these companies need users to use their systems. So we need to find a way to redistribute this wealth. I know it sounds utopic, but today we know what is the fiscal system in the world. In the 16th century in Europe, people were paying tax on the number of windows you were having in your building. And over time, the system has changed. And there is no doubt that in the future, the way we pay tax is going to change, because we cannot continue with the current system. We need to have a system that distributes wealth in a much different way than today. So that's a huge risk we have, raised by many scientists. There is another risk that has been illustrated by Elon Musk. I'm conscious that he's not very popular these days with all of his comments in the last weeks, but still, his comment is valid. We have to be careful what we do with AI, because if you don't control it, then it will control us. And that is very obvious. At the same time, the opportunities for our industry is huge, because we will need more and more power. We will have to rewrite all the applications, the Windows applications, the iTunes, and so forth. All of this will have to be written, and we'll need more and more power, more chips, more technology, more software. So we have a bright future ahead of us for people that are working in the technology. How will these technologies impact the print industry? Because this is the industry that we are enjoying. We all operate in this industry. I used to be a colleague of Alan at Lexmark. And I'd like to look at this in, I've segmented the market in 4. The traditional activity, which everybody knows, and then three segments, the horizontal, vertical, and the new segments that we could be having. Most of the executives and people in this industry, they are focusing on the traditional activity and the protection of the toner installed base. And it is definitely an important topic. Trish and other lawyers can talk much better than me on this, but that has been the main focus so far, and it continues to be, unfortunately, the main focus. While the future is on the 3 other markets, but to do so, you have to embrace the new technology, you have to embrace the digital change, and you need to have a disruptive attitude. None of the OEM today is embracing this big time. Many people are trying to do something with it, many OEMs do it, and we can talk about it later during the breaks, but no OEM is having a disruptive attitude. So what is the impact of this new technology on all of these segments? And I'm going to take examples on that. The horizontal market, it's very simple. Japanese Japanese company in the printing industry are adopting this big time. They are going into other support for printing. It could be textile, cans, and so on. Or they print on wood as well, and it works quite well. And that is a very efficient way to increase the base of business. American companies don't do it much, but Japanese do. The vertical market. This is the biggest opportunity this industry has. What is the main function of a document? The main function is to print, to scan, and then to manage the document, to alter it, to store it, to resend it, and stuff like this. And I don't know for what reason people are opposing printing documents to digital documents, while users that we are moving from paper to digital and vice versa. We are moving from these 2 worlds. They are very complementary. We should not oppose them. And the biggest example is what we do with PDF. It has become the norm in our life, okay? Almost by accident. Today, 40% of the printed documents are PDF. Some people might say, at the origin, this is a digital document. Why do I have to print it? Well, for the same reason that I'm saying that people need to move from one world to another. And the PDF is the norm to help us moving the transition to the digital world. And by doing this is for me, the survival investment for the OEM industry. And by doing this, we can move from what we call the managed print services to managed document services. And I'll take other examples that we can move as well to the Internet of Things services as well in the future. And I will show you how blockchain and artificial intelligence will help this transition as well. Okay. Some OEM have tried to do this, but they have never done it as a disruptive attitude. They've done it as a separate business. It hasn't been a huge success. We're not going to name these companies. I mean, you all know these cases, but you cannot succeed if you don't have a disruptive attitude on this. If you do it, it has to become the core of your activity, much more than the protection of the installed base of existing toner. And I mean it. New segments, 3D. Yesterday I was talking with one person here that is very familiar with the 3D technology. You see on the left hand the adoption rate of this technology. It's huge. Okay. And it's going to evolve big time as well. We can use all kinds of material to generate a 3D object. And it's almost every 6 months. You have new material coming out and the new technology that is showing, and we are having more and more products on the 3D. And the 4D will be the 3D that will alter the product that we have through heat or through other chemical situations. HP is investing a lot in this technology. 9 Star is investing in this technology. And in general, the American companies are doing it more than the Japanese companies. I've taken examples here under to show you that this is not only the future. As we speak, the planes we take, some of the parts are using the 3D. The Formula One racing competition, they use in situ, so on the track, they use the 3D technology to repair some of the parts of the Formula One cars. So this is something that we can use on a daily basis. Okay. And it will be used a lot in the medical segment as well, big time. The Chinese are investing a lot in this technology. I've taken an example, they have built a 5-store building on 3D. And you have some examples in the lab as well where they want to use the light of the telephone to be able to scan and to produce something, an object, with the light of the telephone. But that will happen probably in 5-10 years from now. It's still in the lab. I've taken few examples of new technologies that will help the printing industry. The fashion market. There is a Chinese company that has used the blockchain, 3D, artificial intelligence, and the digital printing in order to avoid counterfeiting on what they do. So you can adopt new technologies to help you into the printing industry. The US Navy, they had a huge problem when they needed some very specific parts. They were not able to get the quality they needed, and it was taking ages, and it was always a failure. So they have adopted the blockchain technology to share the data with all the people involved in the process, while keeping the security at a very high level. And now they have improved by big time the time of printing and the quality of printing. And they have 40 other similar projects in order to achieve this. So what the OEM should be doing, they should invest in these small companies that exist all over the world that can help them moving and having a disruptive attitude into the new technology. Blockchain. I'm not going to read all of this, but the blockchain is able to store all the data for the printing agent. So what have been the parts used to produce a printer? Who has printed what, when, and so on and so on. The machines could talk to themselves. The machines could decide themselves what is the printing policy we want to have, which machines should print what kind of documents. They could call the call center for intervention. They could probably pay the transaction on a cost per page, and so on, and so on, and so on. So this is what I call it, the move from the traditional managed print services to the Internet of Things services. And most probably, you can have data as well, thanks to the blockchain, that is no longer in the chip that many people try to understand and to replicate. You can have some of the data that is, by using blockchain, probably stored somewhere else on a ledger that is very secured, and that will help probably this industry to fight reman, new build, and so on and so on, and definitely the counterfeiting. So the technology is there, but it has to be used. As a conclusion, there is no doubt that it's the people that we are that will shape the future, and we can make things happen. And the winners will be those that will use this technology to the benefit of the community, to the benefit of the company they work for, but we need to adopt these new technologies. There are no more physical boundaries in the world, and we've got to accept this. However, to do this, we have to avoid a new financial crisis. We cannot speculate on 10 times our GDP. I mean, this is just impossible. And if the regulator continue not addressing the issue, blockchain will replace the banks. Easy. People are not trusting banks anymore. I don't know the situation in the US, but in Europe, the money we have in the banks is only secured up to a certain level. It's 100,000 euros. If you have more money, not many people have more than this, but if you have more, then it's not secured anymore. So why would people continue using the banks? Doesn't make sense. The European Union has spent 2,000 billion euro to save the financial system in Europe in 2008, and that was 10 years ago. As we speak, there are still, the value of these same banks 10 years after is 50% lower than what it was 10 years ago. They are still at a loss of 500 billion. It doesn't make sense. We could have used this money to go on the new technologies, and it would have created much more jobs. And of course, I'm not saying that the banks have lost 50% of their jobs in 10 years. We do have to master artificial intelligence and blockchain evolution, because this extreme productivity, I'm not sure it will create new jobs. It's the first time that people are questioning whether new technology will create jobs or will create unemployment. Okay. And what is very important is the last line I've put here. We need to ensure that we have a system where the data, we have true data that has been verified, checked, and that nobody is able to compromise the integrity of the database we're using. Otherwise, we are in a fake world, and we cannot take any kind of decision. And that can happen only through regulators. Of course, we have to become environmentally friendly. The president of the US is not really addressing this. You have many other leaders in the world that don't address it. So I want just to give you a few facts. This planet, not human, but anything that was living on this planet has already disappeared 5 times. I don't know what kind of more examples you need to have. And if you do nothing, the same could happen. And we need to have a system whereby we allow the resources of this planet to regenerate itself. Because the resources don't come from another planet. I mean, this is what we have, and that's it. And we can address it. When you see that 1/3 of the food that is produced in the world is wasted, it doesn't make sense. 50% is in the US, probably a lot in Vegas as well, but it doesn't make sense. And we need to invent new technologies to be able to produce better, cheaper, and so on and so on. And I trust the scientists and the industrial companies to make sure that we can invent this kind of processes. And so I will end up on the printing industry. Guys, every time I go and make a presentation, I beg people, this industry is not dying. It's huge. The future is bright and ahead of us. Stop looking only at the installed base and stop being threatened by, I don't know who, the Asian, the Indians, and I don't know who can eat your cheese on the installed base and so on. It might happen, and we have to fight this, because you need to protect the brand, you need to protect the intellectual property and all of this. This is absolutely essential. But the future is not here. The future is by adopting the new technologies, big time. Okay. So don't forget, digital workflow is for me the most easier item. 3D is one of them as well. And you have many other companies that are dealing on 3D. GE is one of them. So it can go beyond the printing industry. So there is a huge, bright future for you guys. Thank you.